Welcome back to Crucible Mixtapes. I'm your host Dev. Today we'll be talking about a Titan build utilizing Heart of Inmost Light and Bottom Tree Sunbreaker. It's definitely not the highest tier of Titan that you can use. Obviously Antaeus wards and Dunemarchers are probably the top two that you can use in PvP right now, especially the Antaeus. But I thought this build would be a fun way to counter Antaeus users and even just have some laughs along the way. It's pretty memey, or just pretty silly when you pull it off. We're also going to be using the build with fusion grenades, which become a one-hit kill after putting up a Titan barricade or meleeing. So I'll just talk about Heart of Inmost Light. It basically buffs your abilities after using one ability, and an ability counts as your grenade, Titan wall, Titan barricade, and melee ability. Also, usually normal melee, like without your melee charge, will also give you the empowered buff. I don't know what dictates this. I think if you use a different ability, you're able to get more stacks of empowering, allowing you to have a longer duration. But usually you're working with the base 9 seconds empower buff. So what you're usually going to do is put down a Titan barricade, and then you have 9 seconds to find a target to stick and get a one-hit kill. Another combo you can do is melee kill an enemy and then kill his friend with a one-hit kill grenade fusion grenade. So those are just two combinations that you'll most likely be using with this build. The stats for this build, mine are not too ideal. I basically went for like 7 or 8 discipline, just so my fusion grenade would be up every 41 seconds. It's usually closer to 35 seconds because I also use the enhanced bomber class item mod alongside a discipline mod in my mark. Everything else is just a mix of resilience, discipline, and some recovery. I do want to bump up the recovery stat, but I feel like 6 resilience rather, is practically mandatory in Crucible, especially if Thorn shows up. On my boots, I'm just using the discipline mod and traction. Traction just helps me move snappier, but if I wanted to, I guess I could switch to special ammo scavenger. Don't really feel like I need it that much. As for my guns, I've been putting in some time with the Jack Queen King 3. This one has high cal, demolitionist, and swashbuckler, so the demolitionist kills are obviously going to bring back my grenade sooner. Also, if you throw your fusion grenade, it reloads your gun, so it just helps you stay in the fight and transition from kill to kill with the swashbuckler buff. Pretty sure 1 stack of swashbuckler makes your headshots count for 72 damage, making the 3-tap much easier. Wow, can't talk. Makes the 3-tap much easier. This is my Parcel of Stardust. You saw it in my last video. It's pretty good. I just use it when I feel like I want to run fast. I don't have that much mobility on this character, and I'm not using the Dunemarchers, so any guns that give me lightweight are really preferred, just to help make up for my lack of mobility and strafe speed. Otherwise, I would also be using my Dire Promise with rangefinder. I feel like rangefinder 150s are actually the meta right now for hand cannons, so they can compete with auto rifles, with the Suros for the most part. And then also I'll be using my Waking Vigil in some clips. It's the same one from last video, it's just reliable. So yeah, this is the build. You don't really need these exact stats. Figure out what's most comfortable for you. I think a minimum of 6 to 7 discipline is good. I just have 8 because I like to go crazy with it. Also, my heavy does have demolitionist as well, so I'll be stacking 2 demolitionist buffs whenever I use the Jack Queen King gun alongside this, so it's pretty good. Definitely recommended. I think this combination might be slept on just because I don't know, people might be going for a different slot in their Jack Queen King, but this is a pretty good snowball build. You know, you get a kill, you get stronger, you get a kill, your grenade comes up sooner. So it's just it may not have the highest stats, but for the overall flow of your build, it's really good. It doesn't hit as far as my Waking Vigil, unfortunately, but Waking Vigil will be getting retired soon, so I figure it's good to put in the muscle memory with Jack Queen King. So why would you use this build over an Antaeus Wards or a Dunemarcher? Well, it's simply for the one-hit kills from far away. It does get to be a little cheesy and even predictable for the enemy to figure out what you're going to be doing if you do this over and over and over in the same round. But it's actually quite deadly if you know what you're doing, if you're not over-relying on the fusion grenade, and if you're playing a nice base neutral game, you know, just using your guns, just playing the game standard, but then you're adding this on top of your standard gameplay. What you'll find is that you'll have a far-range one-hit kill threat outside of a sniper rifle or shotgun or heavy ammo. In certain maps, there are tight corridors that you can throw your fusion grenade in, and it'll track to pretty much anyone who's in there. It's almost brain dead easy to get those sticks, and you get a kill. And the great thing about using it with bottom tree Sunbreaker is that you get sunspots that spawn on kill. So if people are clumped together, if the fusion grenade doesn't get the double kill for you, usually the sunspot will, and it'll clear an area and make people leave. Sunspots are definitely slept on in this current sandbox. People are not using this class as much as maybe bottom tree Striker or even the top tree Sentinel for trials. But this class has a lot of synergy going on aside from just this Innermost Light trick that we're doing for the one-hit kill grenade. See, once you get a kill with your grenade or your melee, you spawn a sunspot. You can stay in the sunspot until your cooldowns are refreshed, allowing you to continue with the one-hit kill fusion grenade threat. And that's key. But it's also important to not tunnel vision on getting the cooldown refresh. Fusion grenades can go practically across map if you know what you're doing with your aim, and there's gonna be some sunspots that you just can't walk up to. You'll be in danger. So it's important to know when to just leave it alone and just accept the kill for what it is. But when people die close to you, definitely take advantage of the cooldown reduction. Also, sunspots slow down how fast your super bar goes down when you're in Sunbreaker super. So if you can't find people, or if you kill a guy, he's going to spawn a sunspot. You want to make sure that your character runs past the sunspot while you're in your super. This will make your super last longer. And if you don't know where the enemies are, it's a pretty good idea to maybe slow down for a sec, throw a hammer at your feet, and like recalculate where you should be going. And then this will help you last longer in the super. A lot of enemies don't expect it. They would think that your super would have run out, but if you're managing these sunspots correctly with your super, you'll be in it for quite a bit of a longer time than if you were to just run around. And I don't see a lot of other Sunbreaker bottom tree players doing this. They seem to forget about it. They seem to think it's like top tree. But this is the main difference. Your super can last much longer, and also at the end of your super, if you can end it in a sunspot or throw a hammer at your foot as the super ends, you'll have the availability of the sunspot to refresh your cooldowns. So the super can just refresh everything. And also, if you get kills, you'll get health back. Solar kills grant health back, so your fusion grenade, melee ability, and hammers give you your health back. Not fully, it's like a small chunk, but it does help you survive things like Thorn Bleed Out. So it's a good thing to consider. I honestly don't think about the health regen that much. It's just something that works for me in the background as I'm playing the character. The melee is pretty good. I mean, it does like an explosion and burn damage. It's slight AoE. For the most part, it's just a strong melee with burn. Like, it just makes it so people either bleed out after it or they're going to die immediately and do the sunspot for you. It's just strong. There's really no super special properties to this melee. It's strong and it can spawn a sunspot for you if you know what you're doing. When we're using Heart of Innermost Light, your melee kills will make you empowered. So that'll mean that after you melee kill a guy, your fusion grenade, if it's up, will be a one-hit kill. So you can just seamlessly go from shotgun melee into a fusion grenade kill and have a double kill pretty easily. And then have another sunspot spawn so you can start the cycle all over again. This cycle happens a little bit faster in quick play because there's more enemies to work with, and you usually see more multi-kills in quick play too because people clump together. Sometimes the spawns are clumped. I've had people in sixes spawn in one of my sunspots and die. I've only seen it once. I wish I recorded it. I have no idea how that worked out, but he spawned in one of my sunspots and died. That really only happens in sixes. You just never know. Weird things happen with sunspots because people don't account for them. Like, say you get into a shotgun battle and you trade with the enemy, but you shotgun melee him, and then he dies, and then he spawns a sunspot, but you're dead. His ally may run across trying to get special ammo, and then he'll just die, and you'll pick up a kill for free. This usually happens in quick play when people are doing like brain dead stuff, and they don't even care about where they're running. Doesn't happen as much in comp, but it's still just a nice effect to have. Like, it really caught me off guard with how useful sunspots are. Now, the main drawback of this build is, one, you're relying on fusion grenades, and I think they're really good. You can even punish supers with this. Like, it's pretty strong single target damage, but the margin for error is quite high, and you may just feed. Against some enemies, this is just, they see it coming. They're not going to fall for it. They're going to stay far away from you and just threaten you with other things. But against other enemies, they'll fall for it every time. Like, some people just play dumb when you know what you're doing with sticky grenades. It puts them on tilt. It freaks them out. They don't expect it. You can also just not play too reliably on your fusion grenade, if that makes sense. Like, as I said earlier, if you're just slaying out with your hand cannon and shotgun, your sniper, people are going to be worried about those options. And if you're just playing the game like that, and then suddenly you start throwing out the one-hit kill fusion grenades, they're not going to expect it. But if you play the whole game trying to do one-hit kill fusion grenades, the enemy is going to expect it every time. So you have to know how to mix it up. This build is really good at just surprise kills. Like, I think one of the best things this build can do is get you a kill, maybe even a double kill, as soon as the round starts, because the enemy doesn't know where you're going to be coming from. In Endless Veil, there's usually that first sniper fight that happens down the hall. You can throw a one-hit kill fusion down that hall and get a double kill if they're not ready for it. Usually that only works once or twice a game, but whip it out. You never know. It can be momentum changing when you get that one-hit kill with a fusion. You want to learn how to predict the popular sniper lanes and then get those fusion grenades on people who are going to move kind of slow while they're ADS. Even against auto rifle users, it's pretty good because they have to commit to ADSing, so this can punish that as well. Now, there are some weird bugs with the fusion grenade itself. I've had some times where I throw the fusion grenade on someone and it looks like it's curving into them, but then it just like falls and like turns into a dud. That doesn't happen every game. I feel like it's something that happens maybe every other game. For the most part, I think fusion grenades are pretty true to your aim and true to your skill. There is a degree of freedom with it because it has a bit of like a homing mechanism, and that makes it more forgiving. It makes it really easy to just throw it down a tight corridor and not think about too much about the trajectory, and then it just goes, and then it gets the double kill for you or the single kill. The other thing that's important is to just not die while you're doing a fusion grenade kill. Time to kill is so low in Destiny right now that sometimes just committing to throwing a grenade means that someone's going to get off a shotgun shot on you or a headshot on you in that time, and you just wind up trading anyways. So it's important to know how to just pull it off. The other thing is to just not be too obvious with the angles that you take. Once characters on the other team get a bit accustomed to seeing you pull this off, they're going to run away from you. And especially when they hear you put down your Titan barricade, they're going to know to leave the area. So it's just important to maybe do your barricade further back so they don't hear it and they don't expect it, or maybe just get them threatened by your primaries and then just kill them like that. The empowered grenade doesn't seem to one-hit kill supers, but it puts them at absolute. So it's pretty invaluable if you can land this grenade on a super who's like walking in a predictable way. Like, if you can land this on them, they're pretty much going to be dead by your fight, by your fire or your team fire. So that's pretty good too. It's great. This build is just really, really snowbally. Like, you've got to be on top of your game to get the swashbuckler stacks, to get the demolitionist grenade cooldown. Everything relies on you landing your grenades, landing your solar abilities, and getting into those sunspots. If you're not able to do that, then it's going to be a hard game for you. One more thing about sunspots is that you also get the Sun Warrior perk, which gives you more damage overall. I feel like it's kind of like rampage damage, and it just makes it much easier to transition into a kill with your primary, or even with your shotgun. It kind of makes your shotgun reach a tiny bit further because you've got that extra damage, so it's easier to switch from kill to kill when you have this Sun Warrior buff up. And then if you get a kill with your primary or secondary, with Sun Warrior, the enemy spawns a sunspot, and this is not always going to come into play in the game. Sun Warrior itself only lasts 5 seconds. In comp games, people may run away within those 5 seconds. In quick play, you may find that you'll find enough enemies to continuously chain Sun Warrior, but usually that doesn't come into effect. A lot of times what happens with Sun Warrior is, like, as it's ending, you get into a fight, and then you have that improved damage for maybe 1 or 2 bullets, and then you kill them with the normal damage. That's usually what's happened to me. But yeah, it's just a background damage buff that works if you get rolling. This whole build is reliant on you getting rolling. There's not that many freebies. Like, I mean, somebody could argue that the one-hit kill fusion is a little bit of a freebie, but you do have to give up your barricade. You do have to use that cooldown. So you're basically using 2 cooldowns for 1 kill, but also the empowered buff does increase your cooldown reduction. So you're not always working with the base cooldowns once you get rolling with this build. Your punch, your barricade, and your grenade will be up, and you'll be cycling those cooldowns by cycling the empowered buff. So that's a really cool high uptime type of way of playing the game that you don't really see on other characters. I think a lot of other classes do have innate cooldown reduction, but this is a very active way of getting cooldown reduction. You're not going to get the cooldown reduction by just sitting on your base stats. You got to get out there and use your abilities. You got to use things, and then your other things come up sooner. So that's cool. It's just really involved. You have to think about it. You have to rely on the wall and fusion grenade combo to get things rolling, and I just think it's dangerous. It's really dangerous on certain maps like Anomaly. It's so easy to get double kills with this. It's so easy to just set up a sunspot and become dangerous on Anomaly. Now, Antaeus Ward's users are going to get you in a one-on-one shotgun fight. That's just what that exotic is made for. But you can kill them from far away with the one-hit kill fusion grenade before they're able to even slide, before they're able to even realize they're in danger. So many times I tag a person as they're running away, they don't realize they're going to die, and then they're just dead. Like, that's the beauty of this build when it works. And I think one of the biggest strengths you can do is what I call the drive-by fusion grenade throw. So it's like, you don't commit to a lane, you fly past a lane, and then you throw your grenade down the lane as your lift is taking you past the lane. And then this kind of prevents you from being stuck in a clunky throwing grenade animation while you're still moving in the glide. And it's so easy to do it in, like, middle bridge of Burnout. You don't even have to think about it. You just fly past middle bridge, throw a fusion grenade in the middle of middle bridge, and most likely you're going to get one guy if he's in there. The game practically aims it for you, and you'll be in little to no danger because you'll be moving at your lift trajectory. So that's one way to do it. You really just got to figure out ways to not die while getting off the grenade. Usually using the barrier is one way. You know, peeking out of the barrier with your grenade is one way. Jumping over your barrier and then jumping back down into your barrier with a grenade is another way. And then also doing like a slide grenade. Like, as soon as you throw the grenade, you like slide out of danger. But for the most part, throwing a fusion grenade in the middle of no cover is a bad idea, because you're not doing any damage outright. You're still committing to the grenade throw animation. And if that grenade fails, if you don't hit anything, then you've like killed so much time that you could have used instead to maybe damage them with your primary or do something else or get out of danger's way. So it's just important to not bait yourself into death with this build. But otherwise, that's really all I wanted to say with this. I think it's a pretty high skill cap build overall because you have to actively think about your cooldown reduction. You can totally tailor the build to your likings to maybe have a higher intellect. I think having your super up more often is good, so you can get advantage of those sunspots, so you can spawn with the hammers. And as long as you're just taking advantage of Sun Warrior and sunspots and the empowering buff with this build, you're going to always be a threat to the enemy team. They're going to want to shut you down. They're going to be looking out for the fusion grenades, and that's really what you want from the enemy team. You want them to realize that you're doing this. You want them to realize that the fusion grenade is a one-hit kill, and they need to be aware of that. It changes the way they play. It makes them run away. It just makes them have to think about it. And if you can get them to react to your playstyle, you've won on a mental level. and that's what is core about this build. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope the idea is entertaining to you guys. I hope you're able to maybe try it out for yourself and maybe get some Antaeus Wards users to rage quit on you. That is always the most satisfying thing to see, when somebody rage quits because of your success. Nobody wants to die to a one-hit kill sticky, especially when they can't perceive that it's going to be a one-hit kill sticky. Like, you're just walking around and then sticky grenade and you're dead. That sucks. That really sucks to be on the receiving end of. It almost feels like there's no counterplay once it happens, but there is counterplay. You just have to be aware that it's happening. But for scrubs, they're gonna just be so mad that they have to deal with this one-hit kill uncounterable grenade. And I hope you guys have a lot of fun with this build. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace.